Welcome everybody for this fifth Bible sharing of Lent time. You can either watch it on YouTube or listen to it on Spotify in our very new podcast channel. During Holy Week we will be more present on YouTube. There'll be different publications every day, and then the next audio podcast episode will probably be published on Wednesday of Easter week. And now we'll jump right into the Bible text of today, Jeremiah 31.
Jeremiah chapter 31, verse 41 to 34. The days are surely coming, says the Lord, when I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and the house of Judah. It will be not like the covenant that I made with their ancestors when I took them by the hands to bring them out of the land of Egypt, a covenant that they broke, for I was their husband, says the Lord. But this is a covenant that I will make with the house of Israel. After those days, says the Lord, I will put my law with them, and I will write it on their hearts, and I will be their God, and they shall be my people. No longer shall they teach one another, or say to each other, Know the Lord, for they shall all know me, from the least of them to the greatest, says the Lord. For I will forgive their iniquity, and remember their sin no more. Hello everyone, to our sharing today, for the fifth week of Lent time. Today with our group, and the last days as well, we shared already about the text of Jeremiah. And today we share it again and try to give you at home some help and some ideas about the text for your understanding or also for your reflection. So Renike is starting with some ideas.
Yes, thank you. I think it's very interesting to know a little bit the context, because Jeremiah is speaking to people who are probably in quite a bad situation. They might be in exile at this moment. But he is really speaking hope, and he is saying that although they broke the covenant with God, that he will not break this covenant, and he will even bring a new covenant, and there will be hope and something new happening. So I think it's very interesting to look what is happening now.
And it's beautiful the way Jeremiah writes this text, because it's a new beginning. God don't care about what the people of God do, but He's tried to make a new beginning. He wants to write in the heart of each person in a very personal way. And it's a joyful text.
Yeah, and also it gives really the opportunity to have a personal relationship with God. It's not anymore a law or a moral that comes from the outside, but it's really something that comes together with the person and with the personality.
Yeah, and it's very strong with the heart, like it's more about emotions or more about feelings and very individual, and not like one God, and everyone have his own definition of it. Like everyone finds God in different things, so it's very beautiful here.
Yeah, and in the way in our heart is flesh, and before the walls was in a stone, so it's a stone, and when he write in our heart, in the flesh, our human clay, it's very fragile, but in the same time, this trust in God, this friendship begins each day in our relation.
Yeah, I think it's also really a difference that God is more working together. He puts His law inside of us, and we can really share something of who we are with God, and it's not so much imposed as a law on stone was.
So it means somehow it becomes more our own experience. Is that what you're saying? There's a difference between something more exterior, something more interior, something that's not being taught but that we know from experience, or how would you describe this change?
Yes, I think I was reading a book like Siddhartha, and there was very interesting explained that for sure you can teach people or people can learn, but in the end they don't understand it directly. Also, like the disciples of Jesus was that a lot of the times they're doing not the right thing, like, or not the thing Jesus wanted. So I think it's very important to go in the world, or also to make your own experiences and then learn how more about you and also like God, and it's very important.
This is also connected to the promise that is also given. It is not just that the law will be written into the hearts, but also that people will know God and they don't have to teach each other anymore. And I think that's a really beautiful promise, because, I mean, up to this day we still have people that teach each other about God and about Christianity, and that we at some point don't need this anymore. I find this very beautiful.
Yeah, and in the same time, we need to make a journey between our brain and our heart, no? How many times we saw in the others, but in ourselves, we know in a intellectual way many things, but if you don't put in our heart in a practical way, we don't do the real experience of to live with God, to live the contemplation, to stay with Him, to see with different eyes, to listen with different ears. And this is the beautiful thing that Jesus, when He came in the New Testament, He came to complete the Old Testament, and He completes this text of Jeremiah in a way.
Yeah, we were also thinking, what does it actually mean to know the Lord? Does it really mean, okay, we have to know everything about Him and we know exactly with facts or something? But I think it already says a lot that our heart is involved. So it's maybe really more about trusting and knowing God, maybe experiencing God in a personal way. And that's why you can trust, and that's how you know God.
Yeah, now I am thinking the text of the New Testament when Christ is with disciples of Emmaus after Easter, no? Christ is speaking about the texts in an intellectual way, and these two men don't understand the text, and only after, when he is in a practical way, when Jesus shared the bread with these two men realized this man was Jesus Christ, was God, was there in this supper. And yeah, I think we need to find a balance between our intellectual way, our experience of the text, of the different churches, of our theological ideas, and with our daily day, what we go put in our heart.
And also, like, for me, it's like with God, like a friendship. And also, if you have a friendship, you really trust in the person. You even don't know everything about this. Maybe it's also very good that you don't know everything about this person, but it's enough to trust. And I think with God it's the same. So maybe it's not also the aim to learn to know everything about God, or just have this trust and also then receive this love from God in your heart.
Yeah, I like also how this translation says kind of like the reason how we can know God, or like the way to come there, is His forgiveness, because it says like, okay, for I will forgive their iniquity. So we can know Him by accepting His forgiveness for us.
And I don't know if it's in Matthew when Jesus called for the disciples not more servants but friends. Is it Matthew? Maybe. Yeah, and this is when the law is writing in a stone, we are servants, we follow the rules, and we do. We don't think, we follow them. But when it's in a friendship born in our hearts, no? So we need to realize what we are living, and each day give something for this relation. And the life in community, share ideas, help our friend, it is a way to live this experience with God.
So it's change that you're describing, and something that was more outside and becomes more inside and is part of a friendship. It comes in a situation that is linked to difficulty. And also the disciples of Emmaus that you spoke about before, they meet Jesus again after a time of difficulty. I don't know if there are thoughts about that. Is there a link between these difficulties and this change that they discover, or is that a coincidence? Also, there's this promise somehow that they receive. Now we talk about what was promised, but the fact of the promise, does that still inspire inspire things. God speaks somehow about a future or something that is still to come.
I mean, the promises that God makes here are really a sign of hope. The people to whom Jeremiah wrote were probably very desperate about their situation, and now, like, hearing this, and even for us now in our individual situations, can be really a sign of hope, that there will come new and better things, and that the situation will change.
And yeah, I think the promise of God never have a end, no? Maybe sometimes we do this end in our relation with God, but He's always there waiting for us, and we need to find in our daily day the way I go complete this promise of God. I go become instrument of God. And this is the thing of the friendship. I know what is be friend, I know what is my relation with the other, but what I go give each day to my friendship continue my entire life.
And I think also, like, with these difficult situations, I think it's very interesting, like especially today in our situation. I mean, in the whole world is difficult, and for me, like, it was personally very interesting in the first lockdown. This whole like fast world was stopping, and this moment there was nothing around me, and so I realized there is something, and so I come back to my faith after several years. So I think also as well, like in difficult situations, there is like something you really can, you take the choice and you go with the faith or find something more in your hearts, because you're also like hearing more what's going on, or you're waiting for this hope. So I think this is very interesting.
Yeah, maybe also in a difficult situation, you can really realize that this is something that will stay, like that God will stay in a relationship with us. And then also with this goes, I think, the last part of the text, that God will forgive our sins and He will remember our sins no more, so that He gives a new start. So in whatever circumstances we are, it doesn't really matter. We will always have a relationship with God. He will always give us this new chance every day, and this life, this love. And yeah, this will continue. And maybe in difficult situations, we can more easily see this, recognize this.
Yeah, and we see in this last part of the text the way God is our Father, He is our friend. He go forgive, He don't go for God. And there are a big difference between forgive our friend, forgive our brother, and sometimes forgot. Because if I forgot a trouble, there are days go come again in my mind. But if I give Him the forgiveness, have a end, and it's possible to make a new beginning, and this is a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I also find this part when he says, "For I will forgive their iniquity and remember their sin no more." I find this very beautiful, because God just doesn't say He will forgive us, but He will also forget us. And when I think of human relationships, when I forgive someone, I still have this somehow in mind, and maybe the picture of the person changed for me a little bit, but God also forgets it. So it's really a new start, and without any thoughts behind this.
With your, I think a lot of old people experience this with talking, like with my family, about experience. And especially if you're old, you try to find people you have conflicts with in your life and to forgive as much as possible, and then they can go in peace. So I think this is really powerful, to first forgive, and then to have like a kind of freedom with this person, and this is very powerful with God's what He's saying here. Yeah.
I find it fascinating. And I just want to go back to that. You touched on that a little bit on this idea that everybody knows God. It's fascinating in a way, because you spoke about completing something, or that something is fulfilled. You spoke about the friendship, and you said maybe it's not necessary to know everything, but we need to know enough to trust each other. But still, what he says there or promises there seems quite total. If it's not necessary anymore to tell each other know the Lord, but everybody knows, it's difficult to imagine a situation in the world that would correspond to that, where there's something so complete or so total. So it's difficult to know what kind of future is he thinking about. Is it an ideal future? Is it a real future? Is it a future that's beyond our real experiences? But if faith is also about approaching God and going towards God, it's something very attractive to think that the little we know about God and we've understood and that we would like to share with each other, that it comes to that type of fulfillment where everybody has a knowledge of the Lord. But at the same time, it's a question: how far is that possible? Is it possible to know God, and is it possible to know God more than a little bit? So for me, that's quite a fascinating topic.
Yeah, I think in this topic it's also interesting. It doesn't say that we cannot share anymore with each other when this point would arrive that everybody knows God. I mean, we don't have to teach each other anymore, but I think we can still, I would hope we can still share, because I think everybody will experience God in a personal and a unique way.
I think there's always something to share, because everybody is different. Like every person has some different ideas, thoughts. So, and as long as this is happening, I think this is always happening. And as long as it's there, then we can share. Because it's something very beautiful. Because our heart is something so personal. And for me, journey is faith is as well like a journey over the complete life. And maybe in the moment if you die, then this is complete. And maybe this is a nice, your whole life is a journey, and you have experience, you share, and you find something beautiful for you. And then, if, for example, if you're dying, then you have this. It's complete. It's just, this is my idea, but yeah, don't know how you think about this.
For me, one thing is interesting in the text too is Jeremiah, when he writes this, he speaks about the future of a new beginning for these people is outside of Jerusalem, but at the same time they are present. And many times I think we speak about God and our relation in the future. We do plans, but I think it's important to remember the future starts now. So in our present with God, we create this relation, and I think it's important to don't stay waiting, but to go in this journey and do something. Because God is there, Jesus is there, and we need to go, and we have more brothers in this journey. So in each day, try to find a new beginning, to go outside of this exile and go back to our Father, to God.
Yeah, I like also that the inequality kind of is gone with this promise that all people shall know the Lord. So we can really learn from each other, and every human being will know God. I think it's very beautiful.
Yeah, another thing I would like to point out about that, it's not just about equality, but also the promises are unconditionally. So the text doesn't say you have to do this or that because you broke the covenant and then I forgive you, but these promises are for everyone, no matter how their past is, how their situation is, and just unconditionally.
It's true. This is interesting. It's not the people who repair the covenant. It's God who remakes the covenant. He's renewing something according to the text. Maybe that corresponds to a certain way of living, and maybe there's an invitation to participate in this renewal of the covenant. But it's striking the way you say it. It corresponds to verse 32 here. I made a covenant, they broke it, I will make a new one.
Also very interesting how much in this text I will is. Like it's really something, it's what comes from God. Like I will. So it's something really, he want to change something. He make this new beginning. So it's also fitting to this.
Yeah, for me this also shows God's love for us, that even if we don't like follow him, or like here, if they broke the first covenant, God still takes action and says, no, I want to forgive you. I still want a relationship with you. I want that you come to me. And I find this very fascinating.
And this is the beautiful risk, no? It's the taste of the life, is the life commitment with God in our daily days, to give always something for God. And we know if we make some mistake in our journey, He's there and He go make a new beginning, He go a new way, and He's in our heart. So if it was in a stone, it was outside of us, but in our heart is inside of us, inside of our body, it's our flesh. So if it's our flesh, if He's part of and have our blood, go stay always here, and we need to. It's a God refreshing us in a way.
And also maybe you want to show us an example of how to deal with situations, like for example in the friendship, like always like both person wait, the other person should come to me and talk to me. Like, and maybe with this I will, it's very interesting. Maybe he wants, if we have a conflict or something bad is going on, that we make the first step and go for it, and that we say I will. And I think this is very, very powerful.
Yeah, I think it's very helpful, like that maybe we can first really just receive what God wants to give us, and He wants to give us forgiveness and a new start and help. Yeah, and then we can really, with this, we can also give it to the people around us.
And here is our freedom, the freedom of God for us. We have the choice to do something new, to go to this light or stay in the shadow. So the light is present, and Jeremiah showed this. I forgot the sins. Yes, you broke our friendship, but in the end, we have the choice to stay with Him again. And this choice is here each day in our lives. So we need to go out of ourselves to give Him the entire way for God.
And leave our comfort zone to experience something new. Like from the beginning, we had like this: do your own experience and don't try to teach or learning. Then go out of your comfort zone. It's very nice to do this step or to take this choice. Yeah.
Yeah. So we make an experience by coming out of our comfort zone. Maybe we make an experience also, that's what I gather from what you say, by experiencing, or from what both of you say, by experiencing God's forgiveness, and then it's an invitation to kind of reflect that towards other people. It was interesting what you said before. It's and the text doesn't, at least I don't see that so explicitly in the text that it's this invitation, but it's very interesting the way you drew an invitation out of basically an example that God sets for us. I don't know if that's somehow how I heard what you said. So there's a promise, and then the promise also becomes a type of invitation, or this. You spoke a lot about friendship before. This friendship with God becomes a model of a friendship that we can share with each other. I don't know, we touched on a lot of ideas, but I don't know if there's something else somebody wants to point out or somebody wants to add. Otherwise, I thank you for accepting to share your ideas with a larger audience, and of course we hope it helps everybody else to find their ideas.
Yes, thank you all very much for joining this. And yeah, we hope to see you in another video or in another podcast.
Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.